Hey guys, welcome back to Murad and Ran, and in today's video we will be talking about studying in Asia versus studying in a Western country. Now ideally I have traveled enough. I've traveled to all the study abroad destinations, talked to the universities of these countries and talked to the people, talked to the students, talked to the alumni, and I can finally tell you with my experience what to expect in which economy and what's the future ahead. So without further ado, let's directly jump into it. First, job opportunities. People usually think that there are more job opportunities in Western countries. Actually, not very true. So ideally, for this comparison, I'm taking Dubai and Singapore in Asian countries, and for Western countries, we definitely have Canada, USA, and England. Now, first, talking about job opportunities equally available in both the countries, but then it also depends on which course do you want to go for and which field are you planning to go for. So ideally, if you're looking at USA, then you should be looking at STEM courses. If you're looking at something towards digital marketing, then Dubai is the best place that you can be. If you're looking into finance, then UK or maybe USA or Singapore would be the place. So it depends on the course, but job opportunities are ample in both the countries, both the places. So let's just give 0.5 points to both. Second, talking about higher salaries, people usually think that higher salaries is usually towards the Western countries. Again, you're sort of wrong. You can find high salaries here in Singapore also, but yes, you have this correct notion that Western countries have a higher salary, but then they have a higher cost of living, which will be coming on to. They have a higher tax rate, which will be coming on to. So ideally, yes, the money that you earn, the revenue, the CTC that you have in a Western country is definitely more, but then eventually when it boils down to the final money saved, I would 100% say that an Asian country you will be saving more. Why do I say that? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about taxes. Singapore has the least taxes if you're considering it against the Western countries, and Dubai has no taxes. So that point definitely goes to Asia. Cost of living is definitely lower in Asia. Now, people usually think that Singapore is expensive, right? I mean, 100% you would also be thinking that Singapore is expensive, right? But then if you think about it, you can ideally find a place to live here in Singapore for 500 Singapore dollars, which is 30,000 Indian rupees. It's impossible to find a house in either Toronto or Vancouver for, okay, let's just say 800 is the minimum that you'll find the house for. For this, another point goes to Asia. And if you're living in Dubai, you go towards Bur Dubai area or any other area, it would be cheaper than India. Yes, it would be cheaper than India. It's basically Karachi. So it's cheaper than India. And when you compare it with any other Western country, you will not be living at such low rates. Now, if you compare, let's suppose, cost of living in terms of getting your haircut, simple comparison, right? Getting a haircut. You can get a haircut done in Bordabai area for 5 AED. That's 100 rupees. But you will not get a haircut done in Canada for anything lower than 1500 rupees. So you're comparing 1500 to 100. Now, there are areas in Asia which are relatively cheap. Same happens here in Singapore also. There are some areas which are relatively cheap, but there's nothing like that in Europe. If you look at Brampton also, Brampton is also very expensive. Yeah, another 1 point goes to Asia. If you talked about higher salaries, yeah, definitely I'll give this to Western countries. US has the highest salaries. Canada does not have higher salaries, but yeah, US does have higher salaries. UK also is in somewhere in between Canada and US. So yeah, higher salaries goes to Western countries, so 1 point there. Citizenship and PR. It is slightly tricky in an Asian economy to get a citizenship and PR. In Singapore, it's more or less possible. Slightly difficult, but more or less possible at the end of the day. In Dubai, it's not possible at all. But when you talk about Western countries, in Canada, it is highly possible for you to get a citizenship within 5 years. If you compare it with UK, Singapore and UK, I would rank very similar, and US and Dubai, I would rank very similar. But yeah, there is a way to get a citizenship in US. There is no way to get a citizenship in Dubai. So let's just give this point to Western countries. Next point is that of safety. Let me talk about the 5 countries that I'm talking about: Canada, UK, US, Singapore, Dubai. In terms of safety for women and in general people, first would definitely be Singapore. Singapore ranks 1. Second would definitely be Dubai. I mean, you cannot lose anything there. You'll not find anyone stealing your money. You'll not be shot. None of those things are going to happen to you in these economies because of their strict rules, most probably, but you're safe here. The least safest would definitely be US, and UK and Canada would be just slightly over there. You might just think that Canada is safe. No, you cannot travel in a metro of Canada at any time of the night. No, you cannot. You have legit marijuana people. The trains smell like marijuana, definitely smells like marijuana. But then if you're traveling here even at 3 a.m., you absolutely do not have to worry about anything. If you're traveling in Dubai at 3 a.m., you do not have to even think about anything. Nothing's gonna happen with you. Yeah, these countries are not safe. So this point definitely goes to Asia. Next point is that of racism. Now you're gonna face racism in UK, you're gonna face racism in US, you're gonna face racism in Dubai. Definitely you're gonna face racism. So it's a country specific thing. People do have their inherent beliefs, but then some things are very visible. So highest racism that you're going to see is in Dubai. Why do I say there is racism in Dubai? Because you will be getting money based on the color of your passport. So let's suppose your color of your passport is red. I mean, if you have a Western country passport or any other country passport, you'll be paid higher. If you have an Indian passport, Pakistani passport, Bangladeshi passport, you'll be paid lower. And that doesn't happen in any European country. That is just a Dubai specific thing. Here also in Singapore, I feel like Indian graduates are paid the least. Yes, Indian graduates here in Singapore are paid the least. So it's more prevalent towards Asian economies, not that prevalent towards Western economies, but yeah, it's somewhat prevalent there as well. So if I have to give it a point, I'll give it to Western countries. So next point is proximity to home. Now Dubai is just a 3-hour flight away from my house. Singapore is a 6-hour flight away from my house. And at the same time, Canada, Toronto is somewhere around 11.5-hour flight away from my house, and it's very difficult to find a direct flight. It's a very easy thing to find a direct flight between Dubai and Delhi. Very easy for me to find a direct flight between Singapore and Delhi. But then from Toronto, it's very difficult. There's just one flight. In fact, two, Air Canada and Air India. That's it. And it's very difficult to find those tickets because those are so expensive. So in terms of proximity to home, I would highly recommend Dubai and Singapore. Very close to home. But then even if you look at UK, that's also a 7-8 hour flight away. So proximity of home goes to Asia. Next point is time difference. Ideally, if you're living in Canada, it becomes very difficult for you to communicate with your family because there's just a golden hour of 3-4 hours where you as well as your family is awake, and that is the time you can talk to your parents, which is something I do not want in my life. Because if you're just able to talk to your parents 3 hours and you cannot connect with them anytime you want, that's such a bad thing, right? And that same thing applies for US. UK slightly better, but then if you're living in Singapore or Dubai, it's just 2.5 hours away from whatever time zone you are in. So 2.5 hours is still, I mean, whenever I want to talk to my parents, I can, because most probably they'll be awake. So another point goes to Asia. Okay, Asia is winning. Let's think of some points where Western countries win. Next point, would that be of better universities? Western countries definitely have the better universities. I mean, yes, we do have NUS, yes, we do have American University of Dubai, and yes, we do have Nanyang Technological University, but then, yeah, Western universities are better. Next point, would that be a better work-life balance? Okay, another point goes to Western countries. Next point, would that be of weather? Now, let's talk about UAE first. It's going to be very hot, so I would not want to go to UAE. Let's talk about Canada. It's going to be very cold. I would not want to live in Canada. Let's talk about Singapore. It's humid all year long, but still bearable. And USA depends on the state that you're going to. I mean, let's just give 0.5 points to both because it's a very subjective thing. Depends on the country that you end up in and depends on what you like. Do you like summers more? Do you like winters more? I hope you like this weather more, but then yeah, it gets way too sticky. Bringing your family to wherever you are. Now, that's possible in Singapore. I mean, it's not very easy for you to get a PR for your family directly, but then there are way too many routes. You can just ask them to come as tourists. You can get them a 2-year visa as a tourist. So all of those things are possible. Same happens in Dubai as well. So family can come anytime to you to visit you. That's very difficult to happen in Canada. And Canada is the best economy. US and UK is very, very, very difficult. But even in Canada, it's very difficult. So Asia, you get one more point. Next point, would that be of stability? Ideally, you never know what would happen in any country. But then I feel like Western economies are way much more stable. It seems like from the outside that Singapore and Dubai are very stable also. But you never know what's going to happen. but with regards to Western economies, they sort of seem like to be more stable. So this point goes to Western economies. Okay guys, so we are finally back home, and let's finally give it a conclusion whether to study in Asia or Western countries. Talking about the education system, Singapore and rest of the Asian countries have a very rigorous and a very exam-oriented education system. On the other hand, Western countries have a more liberal education system. Cost of education definitely lower in Asian countries and would be much higher in European countries except for Germany. Talking about programs, Singapore has very limited programs and rest of the Asian countries also have very limited programs, but in Western countries you can go for any program, even liberal arts and rest of the stuff, which I genuinely say is not worth going for. They have that. Talking about safety, again, Asian countries are way much more safer. Talking about racism and all of those things, Asian countries still better, just that you won't face it, you won't be at your life's threatening risk, but that can be possible in USA, definitely possible in UK, and now we can see that happening in Canada also. Finally, climate and proximity to home. Proximity to home, definitely Asian countries win. And climate, if you do consider climate as very important, then I would say Singapore is the best country that you can go to, and some states of USA. That's it. To give it a final conclusion, both of them have its pros and cons, but I would first decide what is my priority and whether I plan to come back or not, whether I want citizenship or not. And once you have answer to that, then I would take the final conclusion and then I would finally decide. And if you want to watch one more video on such a topic, you should be watching this video. In this, I'm comparing 5 study abroad destinations and giving them points. Worth watching this. Amazing. What? Click now.